This was recorded on July 8th, 2020, and any changes after this date will not be reflected in the following webinar. Please reach out to your sales representative with any questions regarding recent updates. Hi everyone, welcome to the Citrix Cloud Admin Experience Deminar. My name is Gavin Peltz. I'm a sales engineer based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. With me, I have Juan, who's also a sales engineer based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
All right. Thanks, Gav. So for today's agenda, we're going to kick it off by talking about Citrix Cloud and how it aligns with today's IT initiatives. And then we'll be taking a look at the different industries that we're a part of and how we're helping those customers throughout different verticals as well. You'll get to see how our solution enables that flexible work style while still being able to meet those business demands. And then we'll be moving into more of the technical part of the Deminar, going over the Citrix Cloud architecture from an on-prem deployment versus a Citrix Cloud deployment and what that will look like. And then we'll get into what brought most of you here today, which is, of course, the actual demo itself. Then we'll finish off with us showing you how to actually request a trial so you can try out everything we're showing you for yourselves. So just to give everyone an idea, the PowerPoint should take around 10 to 15 minutes long, and then it'll be followed by that 20 to 25-minute demo. So let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome. So we first just want to look at Citrix Cloud as a whole. So first, to highlight some of the different services in Citrix Cloud, starting on the left, you have your virtual apps, which are your published apps. You have your virtual desktops, which are your published desktops. We also have endpoint management, which is for mobile app and device management. Content collaboration is our file sync and sharing service. And then we have Citrix Gateway for delivery networking. Now, a common question we get here is about that content collaboration name. If you're familiar with Citrix ShareFile, it's the same thing, just with a recent name change. It's still that same file sync and sharing service. Now, with all these services, we have these four tenets that we sort of like to integrate with Citrix Cloud. First, we have simpler. So because this is a SaaS model, you will never have to worry about an upgrade again. On top of that, the user interface is intuitive, making that it's less to learn. Finally, services are cloud-based, so overall it's just less to integrate, less to install, and less to manage. The whole goal here is to make the experience as simple as possible for your admin team. Then we have faster. Now, because the platform is delivered as a cloud service, there's often little to nothing to install. And even for customers using traditional deployment models, we offer blueprinting services to speed up deployment and management. We also have flexible. Now, flexibility is sort of the backbone of Citrix. We want your users to be flexible so they can access their apps and desktops however they want. We want your admins to be flexible so they can access their management console however they want. But we also want the solution as a whole to be flexible. This is because we support deployments of services on any cloud or infrastructure. This includes the ability to manage multiple locations in parallel. Again, our whole concept here at Citrix is to make the solution as flexible as possible for your users and admins. And finally, we have secure. Simple, faster, flexible. Those are all tenets that we abide by. However, they don't mean anything without security. And the key here is that the apps and desktops and their corresponding data remain entirely under the control of the customer. So this is either in a data center or a cloud of their choice. And that Citrix CVAD service has no access to the contents on the different VDA machines or their base image. The cloud service only handles metadata about the users and applications, which is used for brokering and monitoring. So everything you need to meet different security standards remains under customer control.
Right. So something that Citrix prides itself on is how we're industry agnostic. So we're spread out not only all across the globe, but all across various industries and verticals as well. Citrix works with 97% of today's Fortune 500 companies, with our biggest verticals being in the finance, healthcare, education, and manufacturing industries. We also have an extremely large federal government presence, and Citrix is also currently in space. So NASA is using space to communicate with, using Citrix, to communicate with the space station currently in orbit, which is a super cool bragging point I definitely love bringing up. And a key thing to note here is that throughout all these different industries, we're practically compliant with just about everything, including regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, and things of that nature. Now, our model with Citrix Cloud is that Citrix manages the backend data plane. However, you're still managing your apps, your data, and what's important to you from a compliance standpoint. In the healthcare industry, we are working on reducing the number of clicks that doctors and nurses need to make in order to access their work when seeing their patients, whether that means easing the logon process through single sign-on authentication or increasing the mobility of their employees by leveraging mobile endpoints instead of those physical workstations in each patient room. And we're doing all this while still prioritizing the security of that patient health information, so PHI records, being accessed through Epic or Imprivata or a variety of different healthcare applications. Now, in the finance industry, we're easing the admin's headaches by centralizing the management of their environments through the Citrix Cloud Admin Console, which I'll be demoing in a little bit. And also with Remote PC, we're able to help customers quickly stand up environments during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic and configured an environment that consisted of their employees accessing their physical workstations or PCs already in the office and providing them a virtual desktop that they can access from home, all while still controlling that sensitive data, being accessed, and maintaining PCI compliance. Also, a popular feature in this vertical that I've seen is secure browsing, which is our way of isolating internet traffic by using lateral network segmentation. So we're hosting a disposable browser in Citrix Cloud instead of having that internet traffic go through your network, which could, of course, lead to malware being downloaded or random phishing attacks, which could lead to breaches in your network. Now, in the industry, education industry, we've seen heavy use cases in delivering graphic-intensive applications like AutoCAD, Fusion 360, and other GPU-intensive applications. Now, we've seen success in this because of our lightweight remoting protocol in the patented ICA protocol that uses HDX technologies, which has been a leading remoting protocol for the last 2+ decades. And this is because of how it can thrive in low bandwidth and high latency scenarios, since it's only communicating back and forth with mouse clicks and screen grabs. So in the manufacturing industry, we've been able to provide an increase in mobility throughout the plants by allowing their workers to leverage mobile devices like tablets and iPads to access all their apps that they need to run their plant. Also saving them money by lengthening their PC refresh cycle, since their PCs won't be running all that heavy workload locally, but it'll all be running in a data center or in the cloud of their choice. Also, scalability is not only the manufacturing vertical, but all industries. This solution allows you to scale up and down as you see fit, depending on your organization. Nowadays, IT organizations are being asked to increase innovation and decrease cost. And with Citrix Cloud, you can accomplish this by using what services you need when you need them. Whether it's a virtualization need today or a mobile device management need tomorrow, Citrix has you covered. Now, next, Gavin is going to be talking about what a traditional deployment will look like and the architecture.
Thanks, Juan. So as Juan mentioned, we're first going to highlight a traditional Citrix deployment. So as you can see here, this is sort of split up into two pieces. You have your back-end infrastructure, which are sort of the guts of the operations that make the service run. So you have your delivery controller, which is the brains of the operations, talking to all these different components. You have your SQL database. You have your storefront, where your users will go to access their applications and desktops. You have Studio, which is your management console, Director, which is a monitoring service, and then your license server. Now, on the bottom part of this architecture, you have your organization infrastructure. So these are things that are proprietary, like your Active Directory. So you have your app where your applications are stored, where your desktops are stored, as well as your Citrix ADC. Now, a common question that comes up is just, generally, what is a Citrix ADC? And a Citrix ADC is our high-powered application delivery controller, and this is where your external users will go to authenticate. It also has smart load balancing as well as a variety of security features. Now, the VDAs are where your actual applications and desktops will be stored.
Right. And now this is what you'll be looking at with a Citrix Cloud deployment. So as you can see with this new model, we'd be running a split architecture. So this cloud that you see up on top is what Citrix is going to take care of now for you, which is the guts of the operation, like Gavin mentioned. And everything in the cloud, keep in mind, is made highly available. So it's being run in different resource locations. Everything is up to date at all times, including the latest and greatest security standards and the latest features. So you'll never be stuck in a position where you're going through an upgrade path or say a technology is going end of service or being deprecated. Now, the second part of the slide on the bottom is managed by your organization or through a partner. This can live anywhere. It can live in a public cloud, a private cloud, rack space software in your data center, or a combination of all three. You own this information and you still have to keep this secure because you're still running this deployment at the end of the day. However, you aren't being bogged down or tied down by the back-end infrastructure and making sure it's up and running according to best practices, making sure it's updated and patched, all of the above. That's going to be taken care of by us. We spin up the technology and give you access to it. Then you can make it unique to your organization. Now, a common question we get when we show this architecture overview is whether or not there's flexibility with these deployments. Is it set in stone of a traditional or this Citrix Cloud architecture? And the answer is definitely it's not set in stone. It's extremely flexible. We're able to move certain aspects of this architecture from on-prem or move some to the cloud. So there's definitely flexibility in that regards. Now, Gavin is going to be transitioning into the demo portion of this Deminar.
Thanks, Juan. So as Juan mentioned, we're now going into my favorite portion of the Deminar, the demo, where you'll get direct insight into an admin's experience with the Citrix Cloud console. So to access the console, the first thing you need to do is go to workspace.cloud.com and enter your credentials. After entering your credentials, you'll be passed through where you can access your different cloud planes. In this case, I have multiple, but I have Cloud Admin Demo configured for this Deminar. Now, this Citrix Cloud homepage is essentially your one-stop shop for accessing everything Citrix. So under My Services, you have access to all your current services. So we see some of the things we discussed earlier, such as, virtual apps and desktops, which is where you deliver your applications and desktops, content collaboration, that file sync and sharing service, gateway, all these different services. But we also have a few others, such as Workspace Environment Management, also known as WEM, where you can optimize resources and perform profile management as well as access control. So it really gets pretty in depth with the different services that you can work with in your environment. Citrix likes to give you a full picture for how you can improve your workflow. Now, if we go down, you can see available services, and these are all the additional services that I don't currently have access to. However, as Juan mentioned on the agenda slide, we make it quite easy to request a trial. You simply will just have to click the request demo or request trial button, and within a few days, you should get access to see if this service would be a good fit for your environment. Now, before we actually go look at the different services, I want to start off by just going through a few of the back-end admin functionalities of this cloud plane. So the first one I want to highlight is library offering. Now, if you're familiar with with Citrix, or the admin control plane with Citrix. Library offerings is sort of like a delivery group, except in this case you can actually assign an app to a specific subscriber. So in this case, I have Salesforce, which is a SaaS application published, which is something we're seeing a lot more being used in different organizations. And to add a subscriber, it's quite simple. All you have to do is click the three dots, manage subscribers, and then you can actually choose a domain and then choose a group or a user, and they'll be almost instantaneously added to that SaaS application. Now, if you want to add a new SaaS application, you can click the plus and you can select add a web or SaaS app. When this loads, you can see you actually have access to 299 SaaS application templates. So let's just use Salesforce again as an example. You have that search window where you can search. We're going to go to next. I can quickly enter the domain for Citrix. And when I do so, you can see you can actually get really granular with the security that you apply to a specific SaaS application. So we can restrict clipboard access, restrict printing, but we can even display a watermark over that SaaS application to, deter from screenshots and screen grabs. So now that we reviewed library offerings, I'm going to go back to the home page, and I want to look at resource location. Now, resource locations are any location where you have apps, data, infrastructure, anything where you have those items tied into the control plane. Now, here I have an Azure resource location, but what I really like about our resource location is that they indicate the health of each resource location by showing you a different color. So, for example, in this Azure location, there is one cloud connector deployed, and you're getting a yellow warning. If we click into it, you can see it's because Citrix recommends installing at least 2 cloud connectors to maintain high availability. Now, if there's a complete outage in this resource location, the boxes would turn red. And the goal here is really just to make it as easy as possible for your admin team to get a quick health check on that resource location. It's all about simplicity. Now back home, you can see we have domains, and as you can imagine, this is where all the domains are located. Then we have notifications, and this, typical notifications tell you the time of the notification, the type of the notification, where it came from, what the issue is. So, for example, this was on June 26th. It's an informational notification. It's about secure browser, and it lets me know that my secure browser trial will end on the 11th. And finally, on this dashboard, we have open tickets, which is honestly one of my favorite tabs because this is where you can actually open a ticket for all of your services. So you have this one centralized management system, and you can send tickets for all your services that you have from this one location. So that's a really cool item we support. Now, you can also access these offerings through this menu over here, and we'll jump into identity and access management. And the first thing I want to highlight are the different authentication methods. So you have Citrix Identity, Azure AD, Active Directory plus token, Citrix Gateway, and Okta. And that's a question I do get a lot about from customers, is if we integrate with Okta, and yes, we do. As you can see, it's an option right here. Under administrators, this is where you can quickly add administrators to your cloud control plane. But the great thing is you do not have to give them full access. If I invite this user here as an admin, once it loads, you can see I can either give Mac full or custom access, and custom access will actually break down your different services, and you can get really granular with what type of access you give them. So for example, I can give Mac Cloud Administrator access. I'll send the invite. And once he populates on this table below, I can actually edit this access quite easily. I can either give him full access now, or I can give him custom access. As you can see, this is the cloud administrator access we gave him before, but we can quickly change that. Now, if I want to delete him from the admin plane altogether, I can just delete administrator, and it's that simple. Next, I want to look at workspace configuration. So this URL is where your users will go to access their applications, desktops, and files. Now, it's a pretty strange name right now, but you can quickly change this by entering your organization name right here, or whatever you want the URL to be, and within 10 minutes, this URL will be updated, and your users can go there to access everything they need. Now, under external connectivity, this is where we can configure Netscaler Gateway connectivity for the environment. So if we click Configure Connectivity, you can see we can utilize the gateway service, which we're using right now. You can set it for internal access only. But one of the great things is you can actually integrate your on-prem Netscaler or gateway by simply entering the fully qualified domain name here and clicking the Add button. Now, under authentication, you have those same authentication options we saw before. We were talking about Okta a little bit earlier. And then under the Customize tab is one of my favorite tabs in the Citrix Cloud Control Plane, because you can actually edit the appearance of your workspace to enhance that experience for your users. So you can change the sign-in logo, the after sign-in logo, and then it will actually give you insight into what your workspace looks like with these changes. So as you saw, I changed this banner color. You get a preview of what that will look like. If you don't like it, all you have to do is click Reset to Default. Under Preferences, you can allow your users to favorite different applications and desktops. You can set it to automatically launch the desktop. You can set inactivity timeout for web. All these preferences that admins can set just so they can create the workspace whatever best fits your organization. Now, under sites, this is something else I get asked about a lot. You can actually integrate your on-prem site with the Citrix Cloud Control Plane, so you can actually manage, control, and deliver the resources you have in the Cloud Plane to your users. And you do it by quickly clicking Add Site, selecting either Virtual Apps and Desktops, formerly XenApp and XenDesktop, or XenApp 6.5, go through the few steps, and you can integrate that site very quickly. And we won't save for the time being. So now that we've looked at those few options, let's actually go ahead and look at some of those services we talked about. So the first one I really want to highlight is Virtual Apps and Desktops. Now you can either click this Manage button, or we can go to the menu and click My Services, Virtual Apps and Desktops. Now when we do so, we can go to the Manage tab, and this is the control plane for your admin team for delivering those apps and desktops. Now, if you're familiar with Citrix technology, you'll notice that this looks very similar to that admin plane that you've used before. The only difference is we're giving you this traditional tool in an updated and faster manner. As you can see, you still have machine catalogs, which are a collection of virtual machines that are managed as a single entity. So as you can see, we'll have one created here. And then you also have delivery groups, which essentially specify which users can use those machines in the applications that are available on those machines. So if we create a delivery group, I can select the machine catalog that we saw before. Then I can actually add or restrict users for this delivery group. So I can allow any authenticated users, which I'll do for the purposes of this demo, but I can also restrict the use of delivery group to the following users or group. Then you can just simply add applications to that machine that are installed on that machine. Now you can also add desktops from that machine. And it's the same process where you can allow everyone or you can restrict use to specific users or groups. Now that's what's so great about the Cloud Console. It really all the services is how easy it makes to manage everything. Now you can also apply specific policies, and the same thing goes for applying policies. You can specify which specific users or group get those policies. You can specify which delivery group gets those policies. And then finally, I want to highlight hosting. Now you can add a hosting connection, and we don't have any added here, but for example, you could add a home lab, an Azure location, and even AWS location, all just by clicking add connection right here. Now under that monitor tab, I know earlier with the architecture overview, we talked about, director, and in Citrix Cloud, that's called Citrix Monitor, and it's where you can see trends in your environment. You can see the number of sessions connected, the average log-on duration, and if we go over trends, like I just mentioned, it gets pretty in-depth with what you can see that's going on in your environment. Essentially, everything you need as an admin to monitor your environment. So failures, log-on performance, machine usage, resource utilization. Again, everything you need as an admin to manage and monitor your environment. Now next, I want to go to content collaboration. Remember, that's that file sync and sharing service. So in this case, instead of going to the menu, I will just click Manage. There we go. Now on this Manage tab, we can go to Background Operations. And this is where you can actually see the status of operations, whether they're pending, in progress, or recently completed operations. Under security, it gets very in-depth with the different security policies that you can apply with content collaboration. In this case, I'll just highlight a few with logon and security policies. You can set trusted domains. You can set two-step verifications, and then you can say if you want that for just your employees or your clients. Employees are people that work for you that are actually going to be consuming a license. Clients are individuals that are clients of the organization that will not require a license, but they don't have as much accessibility without that license. You can set lockout configurations. You can set IP restrictions, authentication, whether they need to re-authenticate after a certain amount of time. As you can see, it gets very in-depth, and we don't need to go through all of them at this time, but you can see you have a lot of control over what goes on with content collaboration. Now, connectors are probably my favorite thing with content collaboration, and this is where you can actually connect different file sharing services. So we have Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive for Business, and SharePoint Online. And you can actually integrate those file sharing services directly into content collaboration. And finally, we have storage zones. Now, these are essentially the technology that allows you to select where your data is stored, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud. Then under users, we have the ability to create an employee that we talked about earlier that consumes the license, the client that does not consume the license, and then you can manage your users from there. You can browse your employees, browse your clients, and then add them to specific distribution groups. The last service I wanted to highlight here is going to be access control. And again, that's security controls for those SaaS applications. Now, when this loads, you have the ability to, set different security restrictions as well as monitoring capabilities. So let's configure content access first. We'll edit, and you can see that you can block websites, allow websites, or even redirect to a secure browser. Now, as Juan mentioned earlier, this is a browser that's not running on your network, and if there's anything that your users would like to access, but you're not comfortable with it being on your network, you can actually redirect to a secure browser. Now, secure browser is also a standalone service. However, it just integrates with access control. You can block websites by category. So you have a list, and if we change it to strict, you can see that list goes to 134 blocked categories, where if we go to moderate, it drops down to 66. You can also set allowed categories, and then just like you redirected to certain websites to a secure browser, you can also redirect certain categories to a secure browser. Then if we go to analytics, you can actually get in-depth information of your users and your apps with access control. So you can see your top risky users by access, top risky users by volume, download volume. And it really just breaks down so you can see if there's any users that are all of a sudden downloading a lot of software, a lot of different files, and maybe it's something you want to look into because it's not safe for your environment. And the same thing goes for that app access. You can see those risky domains as well as the download volume. And then it gets in depth on, again, user operations, app operations, the total downloads, the total uploads we were just discussing, and all that good stuff. Just really giving you in-depth look into your environment to make sure it's secure. Now, those are the services that I really wanted to highlight in today's demo. Now, it gets a lot more in depth than that, but that just really echoes what the Citrix Cloud can give to your organization. It's that single pane of glass for all of your services. Now, before we end this Deminar, I want to jump back into the slide deck and quickly review how to request a trial. I know we mentioned it earlier, but it's as easy as going to citrix.cloud.com, logging in with your Citrix credentials. If you don't have Citrix credentials, request a new account, then click request trial for the service you would like to try. And it's as easy as that. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this Deminar. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Juan or I.